Hello, I'm DigX7, and this is Devlog 8 of my first Steam game, Frostloop, a survival city builder on Rails, a game that is out now on Steam and linked below. This will be my last main Frostloop devlog, and will cover what I've been working on since the previous devlog, but later I will be releasing a video covering my work for the entire project, so stay tuned for that. And with that out of the way, let's get into this devlog. As I began speeding toward the game's release, I added all the remaining content that was not included in the demo build. This includes things like new game modes and all the locked train cars. All the art assets were ready to go, so it was just a matter of hooking up the objects in the engine and balancing everything. Even with taking extra time to squash a few bugs, it's strange how after 6 months of work, I can just double the game's content within a week. Guess that's what happens once you get all the other systems in place. Even though this is a commercial game, it primarily was, and still is, meant to be a resume portfolio piece. To that end, showing I know how to use the Steam API to add stuff like Steam achievements and cloud saves, while not necessary for the game, would look great on my resume. As such, I pushed it off to the very end because I wasn't sure I'd be able to add it in time. The Steam API, Steamworks, is written in C++, but Unity is in C#, so I had to find a third-party framework. I arbitrarily went with the Facepunch framework. After a bit of frustrating poking around, I figured out how to install it into Unity by looking at the Facepunch documentation site under installation. Not my proudest moment. From there, I got to work writing up a manager class to handle all my game's Steam functions. Steam achievements let you reward the player for doing crazy things in the game. Now, you could just manually trigger the achievements, or you can tie the achievements to another Steam feature called Steam Stats. Steam Stats is exactly what it sounds like. It lets you track all kinds of stats on the players. None of the data is personalized, and the only type of data you can even track are integers or floats. Also, devs can only view the global total of any given stat. But what it lets you do is set up a stat that increments, say, every time the player builds a train car. Then you can set up an achievement to automatically trigger once that stat hits a certain number and the player has built a number of train cars. So I made a list of stats to implement and made achievements that could be tied to those stats. The achievements themselves required 2 unique art icons, one for its locked state and one for its unlocked state. Surprisingly, cloud saves were actually easier to implement than Steam achievements, and only took a few hours from start to finish, as opposed to a few days for Steam achievements. For cloud saves, you first need to tell Steam about how many save files the average user will create and how much space that will take up in total. You next use the Steam API to read and write your save data to the Steam cloud. And that's it. Honestly, because I already had a way of saving and loading data, I just needed to modify that slightly to get it working with Steam. And with that, I put the game together, made a 1.0 build, and released the game. That's all for this devlog. Links to the game and soundtrack can be found below. I've got a video coming out soon recapping the entire project, so don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you all then. Thanks for watching!